Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to beautiful downtown Denison for this meeting of August the 5th, 2024 for the City Council of Denison. We're so glad to see everyone here. And if you would join me or join us, please, we have Reverend Jean Amerson who will give her invocation for the evening.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We give you praise and honor for this place. Thank you, Lord, for this city. Thank you, oh God, for these elected officials. Thank you for this meeting and all that are here. And we pray, oh Lord, that you would grant us peace, you would grant us wisdom, and you would grant us direction, and that you would bless this time. And oh Lord, that you would reveal your truth to us. And we thank you for this. So be present here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. It's a great honor for us tonight to have some of the ladies of Troop 605 at Waples Methodist Church, the Boy Scout troop, and this ladies' troop includes Anna Costelli, Kate Langford, there's Kate, Rayleigh Douglas, and Layla Seymour, and Avonlea Evans, and Victoria Amiskua. Great. We are so glad to have you ladies here with us tonight, and we would appreciate you leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you want to step forward. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ladies, and our troop master for 605 tonight is Michael Costelli, and the troop leader is Leslie Foster. So thank you all for coming. Item number 2 on the agenda is public comments. Citizens may speak on items listed on the agenda. A request to speak card should be completed and returned to the city clerk upon arrival prior to the council meeting for the public section of the agenda. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. Comments related to public hearings listed below will be heard when the specific hearing starts. Do we have any cards tonight? No cards? Okay, we'll proceed. Item number 3 is the consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilman Redwine, second by Pastor Thorne. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We move to item number 4 for the public hearings tonight, and I would invite Mary Tate to come forward. We're going to receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a resolution adopting the Community Development Block Grant 2024 Annual Action Plan. Ms. Tate.
Thank you. Good evening to each of you. The item before you is part of our 5-year consolidated action plan for the Community Development Block Grant, which is through the Department or the Housing and Urban Development Department of the federal government. During each fiscal year of the 5-year plan, this is our last, they determine a formula in which they provide an allocation to all of the entitlement communities across the country. Thank you. This year, our allocation is $266,000, a little bit over that, $630,000, which is about $12,000 less than last year. Each year, we have seen a significant decrease in this allocation amount. And so with this being our last annual action plan year, the proposed uses are the same as they were for previous years. Beginning in January, we will start on that next 5-year consolidated action plan, and that'll go through a much different process than what you're looking at right now. You will see that your proposed CDBG budget activity for this year includes a minor and emergency rehab program at $30,000. Not a whole lot to do much for that program. Our infrastructure projects is a Section 108 loan payment. A loan was taken out in 2017 through HUD for road repairs in low-income areas. And we still have about 4 payments left over the next 2 years. Our current balance is $360,000 on that, and our payment is $188,107 for this year. Third item is for code enforcement, $24,000 supplements half of a salary for one of our code enforcement officers. That is an allowable use through the CDBG program. And the last item is for program administration. That is for all of staff's time that goes into writing the reports. As a federal program, there's a lot of reporting, especially from the finance side, and so that covers our cost. We are allowed to have up to 20% program administration cost, but we felt that that was too high. Laurie and her team in finance and accounting have always targeted about 10%, and this year we chose to move a little bit of that money into the minor and emergency rehab program and take a cut on the program administration. We're going to try to do some of that in-house rather than hiring out a consultant as we have done in the past. There is also a public comment period or public hearing requirement, which is this meeting, but also the public comment period in which we have posted the annual action plan on the website. There's been a notice in the paper, and it's available at City Hall and other city facilities. That public comment period is from July 14th through August 14th, but in order to meet the deadline of August 16th, for which I have to have the plan and all of the required documentation submitted, I needed to hold this public hearing this evening. Within your motion, you will have that, it will read, if you choose to approve the plan, that it is contingent upon the closing of that public comment period on August 14th. With that, I will answer any questions that you may have regarding the plan or any of the other dollar amounts that I mentioned.
Any questions from council?
No questions.
If not, this is a public meeting. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this item on the agenda? If not, the public hearing is closed. Any other issues for council?
No, sir.
If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the resolution adopting the Community Development Block Grant 2024 Annual Action Plan contingent upon the closure of the public comment period ending on August 14th, 2024.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Massey, a second by Councilman Redwine to approve this public hearing and resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now going to item 4B in the public hearings and invite Ms. York to come forward, where we're going to hold a discussion and a public hearing and take action on an ordinance for a conditional use permit for 127 West Main. Ms. York.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The request I have for you tonight, or the case I bring before you, is a request for a conditional use permit for 127 West Main Street to operate a bar for the operations of Black Sheep Cigar Lounge. This request may be familiar to some of you on council, as the applicant came through for a conditional use permit a couple of months ago for a property located at 202 West Main. That meeting was held on May 6, 2024, and City Council did approve that conditional use permit. However, given that the applicant wishes to move from 202 West Main to 127 West Main, a new conditional use permit is required. The subject property is zoned central area and does fall within the Commercial Historic Overlay District. Per the project narrative, Black Sheep Cigar Lounge will offer a space for the enjoyment of both cigars and cocktails. And similar to their project narrative they presented for 202 West Main, they are going to initiate an internal or a complete internal remodel of the space to include but not limited to subflooring, flooring, painting of the walls and ceiling, and adding spaces such as bathrooms and a humidor so they may properly store the cigars. Additionally, the applicant will install a ventilation system as well as air purifiers in order to mitigate the cigar smoke. The future land use plan depicts this subject property to fall within the city's downtown center, and per the comprehensive plan, Denison's downtown center should be engaged in mixed-use activities with retail, restaurants, entertainment spaces, offices, and some medium density residential units. Permitting the use of bar is compliant with the comprehensive plan. There are no parking spaces within the central area zoning district. There are no parking requirements. There are plenty of parking spaces. My bad. Excuse me. There are no requirements in the central area zoning district. However, there is adequate on-street and off-street parking provided via Main Street and public parking lots located near the space. City staff recommends approval of the request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request at their meeting held on July 23rd. Just to reiterate, there were no other requests presented within this conditional use permit application. It is exactly the same as it was at 202 West Main. The address is different. And I'm present for any questions that you may have, and the applicant is here as well.
Any questions from council?
I asked all mine last time.
All right.
I was almost going to say they are not proposing any outdoor seating or for smoking, but
It's
Thank
gonna
you.
be on the backside where you got that elevated deck walkout, right? Make sure the roof over there is not made of plastic.
Thank you, Ms. York. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone to speak for or against the proposed conditional use permit? If not, we'll close the public hearing and ask for any other questions from council. Any questions or comments?
I would only have one recommendation, and that is ask Mike if he would be willing to have the building set up as a conditional use permit, because it may make it easier in the future to not have it associated with the business inside. Not that I have any expectations you guys won't be wildly successful, but sometimes it does make it easier for future applications on things.
Okay, so what do I need to do with Mike about it?
Right now, this will be solved today, but then you can layer onto that potentially a conditional use permit that is building associated as opposed to business associated. Ms. York will probably help you out with that.
Okay.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the ordinance for the conditional use permit to allow for the operation of a bar for Black Sheep Cigar Lounge.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Redwine, second by Councilman Thomas. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are down to agenda item number 5, and that's project updates. And I invite Ms. Tate to come forward one more time, please, ma'am. We're going to receive a report, hold a discussion on regarding vape smoke shop proposed ordinance for the
Yes.
city. Thank you.
Thank you. This evening, staff is seeking guidance from all of you on how to handle a situation that has come across our desks and has caused maybe some increasing concern from us as to the placement of vape shops. And I'm just going to lump it into vape, CBD, tobacco. We're covering all of that with the term vape shop right now. On the map in front of you, you will see that there are 10 locations currently that we consider vape, tobacco, CBD. Right now, within our use chart, we do not have a use for that area at all. And so they're falling into the category of retail, which is permitted in all zoning districts. You can see also on your map that the yellow stars indicate the schools from all of the school districts. It does not include churches or daycares or anything like that. Staff within the planning department, as well as the chief of police and some of his department, are concerned about the placement. And so we want to be intentional about where we are allowing these kind of shops. primarily due to the health hazards, but also to the ease of accessibility to our youth. We are really looking for guidance on where to place them, if we should restrict the zoning districts that they are in, or if we should eliminate them altogether. After doing some research and consulting Julie and her firm, we came up with these two options. We looked at ordinances from several other cities across the state, and we settled on the city of Lavon and the city of Sugar Land. Sugar Land prohibits vape shops throughout their city limits. That raised a few concerns for us due to the lack of case law at this point in time, because it is a newer topic for cities to be handling. So we're not totally sure about what that could look like. That could bring risk of litigation from current owners or potentially future shop owners if we were to eliminate it altogether. Option 2 requires that we would determine certain zoning districts for which vape shops would be allowed, and also put into the regulation the requirement for a CUP. That would allow us to make sure that we build in other conditions that you all may want to see and hold them accountable to other things that we would build into the language. Regardless of what option, if you should choose one of these options, or maybe there's something else that comes to mind, we do want to ensure that we add language, making sure that we are talking about the public health and safety issues that we see, and there's a lot of scientific data to support that at this point in time. Regardless of which option, there are significant zoning noticing requirements that we have to meet. We would have to notify all of the existing shop owners and business owners currently. Those uses would become non-conforming, but they would be allowed to stay in operation until something triggered either a change of use or a huge expansion or something like that that would require them to get back into compliance, at which time we would have to come up with a different solution. We would also be required to contact and notice, just like we do for zoning cases. This essentially is a zoning case, right? We have to contact all the property owners, but it's a little more extensive than contacting the property owners within a certain radius. It would include all of the property owners within that district. So there are some significant staff time that might have to be involved with a certain change, but we did want to bring this to your attention because we continue to see certificates of occupancy being applied for on a very regular basis. And it does give staff some hesitancy in how many we're allowing and where we're allowing them. So we really need some guidance from all of you as to what your concerns are and what you think is appropriate. We have discussed, similarly to TABC, they require all liquor licenses to be within a certain distance from schools and churches, 1,000 feet. And so we sign off on that. So maybe that's something we consider. But we are looking for some guidance from all of you this evening.
All right, council? Anyone have questions or comments or thoughts?
What's the superintendent think? Do we need to, is the school's position that 1,000 feet is enough?
I have not spoken to them yet. No, we would seek direction from all of you, and then we would start to develop that ordinance based on what your guidance would be.
And then we are addressing the tobacco product vape
That's
shops
correct.
at this point.
Yes.
This is not, I'm guessing, Chief, dealing with the various, was it Delta 8 and some of the other
That
things
is
that are starting to be
included.
sold in the market?
Yep, that's
But
exactly what we're talking
I'm
about.
thinking that we can solve some of that through this ordinance.
Yes, sir. We do not define any of those uses or definitions, so we would have to come back and define each of those. So tobacco, vape, CBD, THC, all of that, and be very explicit in our definition.
So in general, I think that as our, I'm a conservative, we as in that vein, eliminating tobacco smoking in public has certainly had health benefits for those who don't smoke tobacco. Vapes are not the perfect solution, but they're a good segue into ultimately, potentially eliminating tobacco. So I wonder how much focus we as a community need to make into the presentation of health benefits. And really, this is something we're trying to make sure that the kids don't do.
Sure. I think it also, when you have a gateway into the community and you see multiple vape shops,
Yeah.
it might send a message.
Just drive to Durant, you can get that flavor real quick.
Right.
But I do like the idea of matching the TABC's CUP process. It seems like low-hanging fruit for what we could easily put in an ordinance.
Right. It's not, they don't have to come before, those cases don't come before planning and zoning. That is something that Chris operates out of her office. And planning and zoning, the fire marshal, the building official, we all have to certify that there are certain stipulations that they're meeting in order to sell liquor.
I did not mean to increase your workload, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a distance away from schools, and I think that's a good point, is talking to the superintendent. Do we want to make it so, like, down the corridors, like 75, Austin, things like that, Main Street, those are restricted areas, possibly, and then in other areas requires a CUP type of deal. But I agree, I don't necessarily wanna see a vape shop along Highway 75, Austin, Main Street, down those areas, but.
And we don't allow tattoo parlors downtown in the central
Yeah.
area because we want a particular clientele. And I mean, the buildings I own, some of those tenants have restrictional covenants in the lease agreement say you can't put something next to them. So part of me thinks this is city ordinances, what zones do we want to allow it in? And then we need to allow the free market to do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Let the schools prohibit any consumption on campus and punish accordingly.
They do, I believe. I can't speak to Denison, but my kid's school district, you are going into in-school suspension if you are caught with
Well,
anything.
they have
So,
vape alarms in the bathroom,
yeah.
so,
We don't even have those in an airplane.
yeah. I know the high school does, has vape alarms in the bathroom.
So I'm not sure if you mentioned, with option one on a complete ban, would the existing owners be grandfathered in?
They would. Mhm.
Okay. And I guess, would a change of ownership count as a transaction that would require the new owner to find a different business, or could they still continue?
So if they wanted to sell to another vape shop owner, that would be allowed. Does that answer?
It does, yeah.
You don't
Yes.
minimize the value of their asset.
Right.
Right, that's, yeah.
Mhm.
Was it 10? 10
It
existing
was,
vape shops?
it's 10 existing vape shops. I think I failed to mention that there are 33 convenience stores and 8 liquor stores that also sell these items. So it's significantly higher than just the vape shops, but this is a start, and they have other regulations that they have to meet in order to sell those products and things like that. So this would give us the ability to put something into our use chart, define it, and help us to be intentional. I agree. I don't think it's right to tell people they can't operate a business necessarily. However, we do want to be strategic and intentional about where they are and making sure that we're working with the current business owners in the current neighborhoods as well to make sure that we're doing the things that they want to see or don't want to see.
Is step one then creating a new category on our zoning that is retail subcategory of tobacco sales?
Mm-hmm.
That would be
And
a
then it
different
would just
mechanism
be
than
the
CUP.
same thing of P if it's permitted or C if it's requires a CUP. So that's really what I am looking for guidance on. If you're all in agreement that we don't want to ban them completely, fine. We'll start looking at CUP requirements to include 1,000 feet away from churches, schools, things like that, and the appropriate districts that you feel they should be located in. So maybe not residential, but maybe light industrial and wherever else you feel is appropriate.
What's our rough, I guess, estimated population right now?
Right around 30,000.
So at 30,000, would it be possible to do you divide 10 by 30,000, hey, we can only have one shop per 3,000 people. And if our population grows, we can add another one. Is there a way to restrict it like that?
I think, Julie is shaking her head no.
I'm just wondering, I think at 30,000, 10 is enough. I don't know.
I do, I see what you mean, and we have discussed that about can we actually cap the number? But I think you fall back into that situation of then we're essentially telling number 12, let's say, right? Let's cap it at 11, and then you're telling number 12, no, you can't. So I don't know the situation that puts us
Just tell them
in.
to bring 3,000 more people into town.
We'll put you in charge of that.
Free market, free market kind of determines.
Ultimately, you don't, if we're gonna have vape shops at all, you want only the best that are here, the ones that'll survive, the ones that have good customer service, the ones that present well. The others will go out of business if there's competition in the marketplace. I don't wanna restrict somebody's behavior. I mean, I'm not a smoker, but I'm gonna go to a cigar lounge. I would like the fact that we have a cigar lounge available for that service, you know. But my wife at the hospital says those vapes will ruin your lungs, the crystals in them will put you in the hospital, don't do it, especially when you're kids. So I'm on board for that.
Maybe this is a question for Chief, but is there a direct correlation between the more shops we have with, I guess, 21 being the age limit now, it's no longer 18. Are we seeing more individuals that are having paraphernalia they shouldn't have?
We are, and I know that we talk about the Delta and different things like that. Be aware that there's also vape, THC, and it's the real deal. So we see that quite often, unfortunately. Now, I'm hopeful that none of the shops that we have here would be dealing with those kind of things, but I know there's a state just north of us that does. So we have to think about that. I can tell you, just from being the husband of a school teacher at one of our local schools, it's an issue, and I see more of it than we need to. It's more concerning for me for the children, and that's the big thing. And Mary and I have had this conversation, but it is a concerning fact right now that kids are getting a hold of these things, and it's the cool thing to do, right?
Any other thoughts, questions? Do I feel that we are leaning towards option 2 with a specific use permit?
I think option 2 is reasonable. What do you think?
Is there any other direction that you want from us, any more specifics?
No, I think that gives us a good, we can get started on that, and we'll present you with an update again once we have a draft of that, and you could provide feedback to us if that works for everybody.
Yeah.
I'd also like to see if Julie, I'm guessing she's the one that would write it up, if we can create the subcategory on the zoning that would
Yes,
allow.
we will definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Mary.
you.
Okay, at this time, we get down to item number 6. That's an executive session. We have no items for the executive session tonight. For our ladies here from Troop 605, I look forward to meeting with you next week. And just for your information, the people up here to your far right is our city manager, Bobby Atterbury. Next to her is our city attorney, Julie Ford. And we have the city council. And then over on this side, we have Karen Avery and Chris Wallentine, who are key staff members for our city. And they're here each and every meeting, so we can talk about that next week. But I look forward to seeing you then. Is there any further business to come before the council? If not, my favorite part. To adjourn.